In the heartland of rural Tennessee, nestled within the rolling hills of Robertson County, lies a tale that has sent shivers down the spines of generations. It is a story that weaves together elements of the eerie and the unexplained, an enigma that refuses to be forgotten, the legend of the Bell Witch. Step into the past where an ordinary family, the Bells, found themselves caught in a web of a relentless and malevolent entity that shook their lives to the core. As we delve deeper into the mystifying events that unfolded on the Bell farm, we are left with one question. Was the Bell Witch real or a creation by the human imagination? A puzzle that still beckons those who dare seek the truth. My name is Kayla, this is Xenu, and we're talking about the Bell Witch here today on Cauldron Convos, baby. Let's go, Bell Witch, hit it up.
Welcome.
Scary tale. What a scary tale. Spooky tale for just in time for Halloween. If you are new to this channel, we post weekly videos here on the spine-chilling, paranormal, spooky topics that you definitely want to hear, especially around Halloween time. We do lives on YouTube. We make a lot of shorts on YouTube. We're just here giving you all the content that you want, some creepypasta too. So make sure to subscribe again if you aren't subscribed already. And to our subscribers, thank you so much.
Turn on your post notifications so that you know when we're live.
Yes.
We do a spirit box.
Turn your notifications on so you can be notified when I'm here on a Friday night. Or
Saturday
night, Sunday night, any night of the week. But anyway, let's get back to the video. So if you don't know who the Bell Witch or the legend of the Bell Witch is, we're going to start off on this podcast talking about how it began, the story of it, the origins of this legend that still haunts the town or the county today. In the early 19th century, John Bell Sr. moved with his family from North Carolina to the Red River bottoms of Robertson County, Tennessee. This area was relatively underdeveloped at the time, and the Bells were among the early settlers in the region in Tennessee.
Most of America was pretty underdeveloped.
Yeah.
Just putting that out there.
So underdeveloped, mind you, that John Bell Sr. was able to purchase 320 acres a tract of land from his new neighbor, Kate Batt. If I can only buy 320 acres, I don't even think I could buy 1 acre.
That's like when they bought Manhattan from the Native Americans
For like $17 or something?
Yeah, but the Native Americans like, are you sure you want to buy the land? Because they didn't understand the concept of land ownership.
Oh.
So it was like free to the Native. They were like, okay, I'll take $15 for this land. Because they were like, okay.
That's like my mom at garage sales with like old comic books. She's like, are you sure you want this piece of paper? And the guy's like, yeah. And then he takes them all and sells them for like thousands of dollars.
Curse you.
Curse you, I still think about you. And he actually bought this tract of land from the woman named Kate Batts, who was actually like the town outcast, the eccentric woman that everyone was like, what's wrong with Kate? What's up with her hair? Why does she look like that? Why does she act like that? Just the local outcast. I love how like every town had a local outcast. And still to this day, I would argue that towns all have a local outcast.
I know some kooky people. New York City's full of kooky people, but I feel like I'm surrounded by extra kooky people.
I guess if you're like in a main city, you know, maybe there's a lot of them, but especially in a small town like they were in where everything's underpopulated, if you could buy 320 acres there, if you stick out like a sore thumb, you stick out like a sore thumb, baby. What's that like lullaby or tale about the guy, the purple thumb with the pie?
Hitchhiker's thumb?
No.
Do you have
There's
one?
like this
Wait,
weird...
do thumbs up.
No, I don't. Straight.
That's so weird.
Yep. I'm the outcast. What can I say? John Bell Sr. bought this land from Kate Batts with the intention of starting, you know, his little farming operation, actually expanding his family's farming operation. Wow, look at them. Icon entrepreneurs over here, John Bell Sr.
He's trying to be a Rockefeller.
Yeah, he's trying to make things happen for his
be
family.
a Bell.
But then something happened in 1817, which took the Bells down from Rockefeller status, because that's when the haunting began of the Bell Witch. John Bell Sr. had this unusual encounter with a bizarre dog-like creature in his cornfield.
I've had my fair share of weird encounters with animals in public, like a bodega cat, you know? It's like, are you real?
Are you real?
You just hang out in a bodega.
Are you smoking a pipe, or am I imagining things?
Does that bodega cat have a cigarette in its mouth?
It's like, what's it to you? You don't know the things I've seen on the streets of Arthur, have you? But this specific animal was so creepy and weird to him. The creature allegedly had a body of a dog but the head of a rabbit. It was so skinny and, its bones kind of jutting out, but it was like weirdly shaped and manged and kind of like chupacabra-esque, I would say. And it kind of vanished mysteriously. And some people believe that this encounter with this creature may have triggered the paranormal activity that followed. Some stories say that the dog was actually chased off by John Bell Sr., and that's why John Bell Sr. had all this bad luck. And then after that, John's son Drew Bell approached an unknown bird perched on a fence that flew off and was of extraordinary size.
Was it Mothman?
Was it Mothman? Was it a
Maybe.
crane? Was it the Bell Witch? And then the daughter Betsy apparently observed a girl in a green dress.
Betsy Bell.
Betsy Bell, baby.
That's a good name.
That's a good username for Insta.
That's like a good porn star name. Betsy Bell.
Look at my bet, and she just has bells on her knockers. Anyway, let's not. This is a young girl who was haunted by Bell Witch. Okay, let's take this shit seriously. The daughter Betsy observed a girl in a green dress swinging from the limb of an oak tree.
Oh, that's like some conjuring shit.
Like, apparently she was like swinging, and then by the time she got either her mom or someone in her family to look, the freaking girl or whoever
was gone.
Was swinging and swung up into the trees and rustled away.
No, really?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do like a 360 swing.
There are some stories that point out that Dean, who is a person enslaved by the Bell family, reported being followed by a large black dog on evenings he visited his wife. So all of these kind of tales were, I guess, the origin of the haunting of the Bell Witch and all of the events that happened after, or the paranormal activity that started happening to the Bell family. So now the paranormal activity begins. What actually happens to the Bell family that makes this such a legend and talked about even today? Why we're talking about it right here, right now. So the paranormal activity in the Bell household started with smaller things such as just knocking along the doors and walls. So they would hear a knock here or there. They would open the door and find no one there, or outside their window they would hear a knock. They would look, it would be gone. They would sit back down. Within a few minutes, another knock. Just things like that, odd things that, make you question, is this really happening? Is it just noises in the house? What's going on?
Now,
what's going on?
I grew up in a very old house, and old houses, it had central air, but the central air was always a little funky. It just always made so many noises.
Yeah. I mean, that's true, but I think these are like, and then it would stop.
Oh, man.
That's kind of weird.
The dogs would freak out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. Things started to escalate a little bit. They started hearing scratching noises outside of their walls. They would hear eerie sounds of chains dragging across the wooden floors.
That's when you get the fuck out.
Finding nothing there. So they would walk out the room, hear the chains dragging, run out, look to see no one there. Chain noises stop. Then within like 10 more minutes, happening again with the knocking, the scratching noises, the chains dragging on the wooden floor. Also, what gets me every time is gnawing underneath their beds. So they would hear, which like I guess could be a squirrel, That
relates to the
woodchuck.
dog though. The dog gnawing on something.
Yeah.
I put my best wig on for you guys today.
Oh yeah, of course.
So the voguing Bell Witch.
And then John Bell started experiencing weird physical symptoms happening to him, such as paralysis of his mouth, which is a crazy thing to start happening. But then the activity started escalating into so much more than what it was that it was undeniable what was happening to them. For example, sheets were being pulled from beds when the children were asleep. The entity pulled hair and scratched the children, with particular emphasis on Betsy Bell, who was slapped, pinched, and stuck with pins by the
oh my god
the entity or being that was haunting their home.
I feel like it's so medieval. Well, not medieval. It's so like 18th century to be like poking somebody with a pin.
I know. I'd be like, what is that? Like, what's a pin?
Like, that's something that you'd think of in like 1850, but you would never ever think of that today.
They have like the little like ball of like all the pins.
Yeah, where they'd sew. But no one would ever poke you with a pin today.
Hey, watch yourself.
I'm going to wake up to like a pin in my ass tonight.
Voices then started echoing through the halls, and the entity would even mimic the voices of the family members. So you would be thinking that you're hearing your dad, John Bell Sr., and then you would walk out and he wouldn't even be there. He would be outside and you would be like, how were you just talking to me?
I wonder if it's like a Wendigo.
Perhaps.
Hearing a familiar voice that's not coming from someone
Oh,
familiar
I
is.
see, yeah.
That's like truly unsettling.
Yeah, I feel like that's a common theme in like horror movies and things. You like hear, it's like mommy.
Why are paranormal?
Like,
why are ghosts so? Why are they so tricky?
They're demons.
Why are they so tricky?
Because
every ghost is tricky.
Thing. That's their thing.
Just be straightforward.
John Bell was subjected to relentless physical and emotional torment, which took a toll on his health. The entity would slap, scratch, and beat him mercilessly, leaving him in a state of perpetual distress. So sad. Damn.
That is kind of sad. If you just buy all this land and then you're just being terrorized by a ghost.
Maybe you shouldn't have thrown a rock at that dog, though. You know?
Yeah.
Moral of the story: don't abuse animals, people. Even if they have mange.
I will find you.
Even if they have mange and lived in a cornfield in Tennessee.
And I will kill you.
Now, some stories of the Bell Witch even say that they told the community they didn't want the community to think that they were crazy, or they didn't want the community to start distrusting them since they just recently moved there. But they've done a lot for the community, apparently, the Bells did. So they did share with some neighbors who at first didn't believe them, but they invited them to stay in their home. And the neighbors experienced all of these things, hearing the voices, hearing the scratching, the chains dragging, and they obviously believed the Bells and told the rest of the town. And everyone in the town basically knew that the hauntings are real and they were happening to the Bells, which is kind of interesting.
And this stuff is pretty relatively well documented, at least written script wise, in terms of like the layman accepting and understanding that there were other accounts of the Bell Witch. Like, it wasn't like he said, she said. It's like, 15 different people say it, including clergymen.
Yeah. And so as word of the Bell Witch's reign of terror started spreading, not only through this community, but across the country, it seemed, curiosity seekers and paranormal investigators descended upon the Bell farm. Even General Andrew Jackson, who you might know the name.
Shout out to the $20 bill.
Would later become, obviously, president of the United States. He even went to the house to witness the supernatural, and legend says that he and his party were so freaked out by it that they left.
Honestly, that makes it very credible. And it's, multiple sources are saying Andrew Jackson, was there. He went and he's like factor cap.
According to the entity, which identified itself as Kate or Kate Batts, a.k.a. the neighbor.
The woman they bought the house from.
Yeah, the outcast. John Bell Sr. had cheated her in the land transaction.
Sounds about right.
So this belief served as the entity's apparent motive for tormenting the Bell family. This could have been like talk of the town, I feel like. This could have been like, the community being like the local outcast. The witch trials where it's like someone points fingers at the weird person. They're like, she's a witch. And then everyone in the town believes that. And then maybe that's been passed down for, centuries. But
there's always that person that lives down the street that did something sketchy.
That everyone in the neighborhood talks about.
Yeah, in this case, it was Kate Batts. So yeah. I feel like she's the obvious scapegoat.
Yeah. After they've been tormented by this entity, they soon learned that this entity or this being had a little too much knowledge of the family's lives. It would even start replicating voices of not just the family members, but neighbors and even complete strangers who visited the Bell household. So maybe, Andrew Jackson up in here.
It's changing like their voices. It's like continuously escalating. It went from replicating the family members, Betsy, John, to now doing anybody. It's like almost going a step deeper in the psychological torment.
But as we said a few minutes ago, the Bell Witch's physical assaults on John Bell, the dad of the family, it started taking a toll on his health because these attacks were just aggressive behaviors. They were, I feel like I would move by then, but I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to.
Again, if I wake up with a pin in my ass, I'm out of here.
During these hauntings, there seemed to be some type of religious element with a lot of like demonic entities. The Exorcist has a lot of religious undertones and whatnot. So
that's like with every haunting, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's why I'm like, I feel like if you have a lot of crosses in your house, like you're asking for a demon to come around.
Just for them to flip upside down on the wall.
For it,
I think our next episode's going to be on a demonic possession because I have a priest costume that I need to wear.
They started trying to communicate with the entity, and they would ask questions such as, who are you and what do you want? And the voice of the entity would then answer feebly, I am a spirit. I was once very happy, but I have been disturbed. So the spirit offered diverse explanations of why it had appeared, tying its origin to the disturbance of a Native American burial mound located on the property.
Sounds like a Wendigo.
And also sent Drew Bell and Bennett Porter on an unproductive search for buried treasure. So then with the emergence of these full conversations that they were having, I guess, with Bell Witch or the spirit then repeated word for word 2 sermons given 13 miles apart at the same time. 13 miles?
But so 2 sermons were given at 2 different churches, 13 miles apart. And it knew the 2 sermons at the same time.
Ew. Yeah.
It's the devil.
The entity appeared to be well acquainted with the Bible, with sermons. Apparently, it enjoyed to have religious arguments. As another amusement, the witch also shared gossip about activities in other households in the community, and at times appeared to leave, actually, the Bell's household for brief moments to visit homes after an inquiry.
Something interesting that I think, at least, coming from like an outsider's perspective, typically speaking, you know, a demon is not going to want to talk about the Bible. A demon's not going to know biblical verses. So this almost discredits it to me.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen, okay, I'm going to say, have you ever seen The Exorcist? But like when they have like, you know, when they have the Bible, it goes, ah! It's like I used to, as a kid, like take a Bible and put it against my sister and go, tss, like it was burning her. But, you know, they
hate it. Yeah.
They hate it. So why is it going to be, you know,
talking about it and enjoying talk? Also, I love how it like likes gossip. It's like going to the different households and it's like, what's going on?
This just sounds like a middle-aged woman.
Did Darcy really sleep with William last weekend? The witch is like, tell me more. Anyway, the witch would apparently refer to John Bell Sr. or the father as Old Jack. The witch claimed she intended to kill him and signaled this intention that they had through curses, through threats, and the afflictions, the physical crazy things that it was doing to him. Exactly. And the story climaxes when John Bell Sr. was poisoned by the witch.
The witch or the wife?
The witch. Apparently, the spirit actually liked the wife.
Really?
And would sing her songs and like do nice things for her, which is kind of weird. But then maybe she was like into the wife and was like, let's knock John Bell Sr. out of here.
Like an incubus?
Ew, yeah. The strange vial of unidentified liquid was reportedly found near John Bell's bedside. The contents of this vial were never definitively identified, leaving room for speculation and suspicion. The Bell Witch, in a final act of malevolence, allegedly took responsibility for John Bell's death, claiming to have poisoned him. And after, you know, the entity poisoned the father of the household, John Bell Sr., the entity interrupted the mourners of the home by singing drinking songs.
What'd you do with drunken sailor? What would you do with drunken sailor?
Because he drank the poison, I guess. But besides the drinking songs, apparently on the day of his funeral, a voice believed to be the Bell Witch was heard saying, "I am a spirit, I am not lying," and singing joyfully.
Can you imagine just your ghost like singing joyfully at your funeral? What insult to injury.
I know.
Are they sure it wasn't his wife?
In 1821, as a result of the witch's entreatment, Betsy Bell called off her engagement to Joshua Gardner. Subsequently, the entity told the family it was going to leave, but return in 7 years in 1828. The witch returned on time to Lucy and her sons Richard and Joel with similar activities as before, but they chose not to encourage it, and the witch appeared to leave again.
That's interesting. It's like a schoolyard bully. They say ignore the bully and the bully will go away. Well, John Bell, stop crying, John Bell.
But then we also wanted to talk about a few of the like publications or newspapers that the Bell Witch was referenced in back then. The New England Farmer of Boston and the Green Mountain Freeman of Vermont in 1856 published an article regarding the Bell Witch legend, and the publications described the origin of the text to the Saturday Evening Post. The unidentified author described the apparition as the Tennessee Ghost or the Bell Ghost, and stated that event occurred 30 years or more from the time the article was written. There are 3 human characters in the account: Mr. Bell, his daughter Betsy Bell, and Joshua Gardner.
Betsy Bell's fiance.
The author stated that the voice, which spoke freely about the house from all directions, would not manifest itself until the lights were extinguished at night. The phenomenon attracted wide interest. The author claimed to have become well acquainted with Mr. Gardner. When the ghost was asked how long it would remain, it replied, "Until Joshua Gardner and Betsy Bell get married."
Wow.
The author goes on to state that Betsy Bell had fallen in love with Joshua Gardner and had discovered the skill of ventriloquism. Why?
Hello, this is my friend.
That's a weird skill to discover, but okay.
Well,
No offense
it's
to
a
my
talent.
ventriloquists in the chat.
It's a talent.
Yeah. Go Betsy. Go Betsy Bell with her bells.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's how she does the ventriloquism.
Or her dinner bell. Her
just uses-
dinner bell's a necklace. And
The
she just
skill
goes.
is just the Bell Witch talking through her. That's why she's such a good ventriloquist, because it's just the Bell Witch talking and mimicking her voice.
I feel like there's a
theory.
YouTube video about that.
The author states that Ms. Bell then used her skill to attempt to convince Joshua Gardner to marry her. When they did not marry, the apparition disappeared. That doesn't make sense. I thought they were supposed to get married. That's weird. Okay.
Well, maybe she was heartbroken.
True. And then in 1880, another article was published regarding a haunted house in Springfield, Tennessee, where knocking underneath the floor was heard. The fourth night of knockings began at 10:30 p.m. and ended at 4 a.m. with the home surrounded by 10 to 12 people working in an effort to discover the origin of the sound. In a follow-up report from 1880, the writer reported that several hundred people had visited the home attempting to witness the phenomenon, with many camped out overnight, despite the homeowners asking them to leave. On Wednesday night, the family were reported to have left the home for the night, and a smaller group of investigators around the home heard knocking from 50 yards away. During the events, the journalist took the opportunity to mention the Bell Witch legend. It is an actual fact that several hundred intelligent people of Springfield and vicinity have been so excited over the noise as to go night after night to listen to it. About 30 years ago, Robertson County had a sensation similar to this known as the Bell Witch, and people came from all parts of the country, even as far as New York, to see her. So I guess it's a different entity in a town nearby in Springfield, Tennessee. I thought it was the same one that they were talking about, but...
Was it named? If it was called the Bell Witch, maybe she's a traveling entity. She's a hobo.
Maybe.
She's got her little stick with
yeah, maybe
the little
when she
hanky
left,
on the
she went to
back.
another town and then came back. Okay, so a prophecy was reported in May of 1903 that the witch could return on the centennial of the Bell family's arrival in Tennessee. In response to the 1903 article from Memphis, the Springfield Herald, it expressed that no one in the local area was concerned with the return of the Bell Witch and made a charge of plagiarism towards the Memphis paper. The Herald also stated the copyright for Ingram's work had passed to his son Tolbert, who was working at the Denver Times. By September, the local paper was again incredulous, as the spirit was not reported to have returned in August. Charles Bailey Bell, a grandson of John Bell Jr. and neurologist in Nashville, published a book entitled The Bell Witch, A Mysterious Spirit in 1934. In the work, he recounted stories he stated were told to him by his great-aunt Betsy later in her life.
Oh, no.
This included another account of Andrew Jackson's visit and of a boy trapped in the Bell Witch Cave and pulled out of the cave feet first by the witch. Bell also detailed a series of prophecies he stated were given to his ancestors in 1828 by the spirit, including a declaration the witch was set to return again in 1935, 107 years after her last visit to the Bell family. So that was the prophecy, I guess, 1935. I don't know. Maybe he was just saying that. Then after that, in 1937, there were apparent reports of weird events that could have been Bell Witch. For example, Lewis Garrison, an owner of a farm that included the Bell Witch Cave, the one that the boy was, I guess, pulled out by the witch allegedly, he heard unexplained noises coming from inside of the cave, and Bell descendants described the sound of something rubbing against a house, a paper-like object that flew out the door and re-entered through a side door, and faint music heard from a piano. Weird.
What?
A group from the local Epworth League were reported to have attended a wiener roast in a rock quarry near the Bell Witch Cave in 1937. The group were joking about the legend when they saw a figure of a woman sitting on top of the cliff of the cave, causing many to flee. Dang, not the Wiener Fest. What was it? The Wiener?
Not the
Wiener roast.
Wiener roast.
Comment down
Curse
below.
you, Bell Witch.
Comment down below if you want to RSVP for our Wiener roast.
We'll have a Cauldron Combos Wiener roast, like in Central Park or something.
Central Park.
Washington Square Park.
And according to the newspaper, a minister in the group later claimed... Oh, a minister was at the Wiener roast?
Clergyman.
Wow.
A man of the Lord.
I thought that was just the Catholic Church.
That was too good.
Okay. According to the newspaper, the minister in the group later claimed to have investigated and discovered it was moonlight on a rock, not actually a figure.
Yeah,
of a woman.
of course the clergyman's like, come on, guys, we have to stay at the Wiener roast. We can't cancel the Wiener roast.
It's really important we be
It's
here.
really important that we all go to bed Everyone goes to bed first. I'll take first watch.
I'll take first watch for the Bell Witch. The second report concluded with a weather report that the moon was barely noticeable that night.
Ooh, see?
We know he's lying.
Wiener roast.
Jim Brooks published in 2015 that his mother was in attendance at the roast and relates that the minister caught up to the youth on the road to town after discovering no explanation for the figure. Of course the minister caught up with the youth.
This writes itself.
I know, it really does. Can't make this shit up. Even in 1965, an article was published involving an antique oak rocking chair said to have been previously owned by attorney Charles Willett, a Bell descendant.
Oh.
The rocking chair was acquired in Willett's estate sale by someone who was an owner of an antique store. A customer sat down in the chair after learning it was not for sale, and while rocking in the chair asked Mrs. Adams if she believed in the supernatural. 2 weeks later, the customer's daughter visited the home of Mrs. Adams and said after her mother had left and visited the Bell Cemetery, a voice told her to, quote, stand up and look around. You will find something of much value. After some car trouble, the woman walked out into a field and found a black iron kettle turned over. She turned the kettle over and found a pearl buckle in the grass. The woman's daughter reported a jeweler estimated the buckle to be 160 to 200 years old. Okay.
Oh, maybe it's the buckle of the Bell Witch.
The buckle of the shoe of the witch's boot. I don't know. That's a song that I made. Someone named Bonnie Hanneline in 1977 recounted a time during her childhood in 1944 when she was exploring the Bell Witch Cave. She left English class playing hooky and borrowed a lantern from Mrs. Garrison, the cave owner. She reported to have explored the cave with her friends for several years. While she was inside, her lantern blew out despite no breeze inside the cave. She managed to relight the lantern and it blew out again. Terrified, she crawled along the water path of the cave in the dark until she reached the entrance where she saw an opened can of pork and beans and marshmallows. It's the wiener roast.
It's the clergyman.
It's the clergyman living in the cave. Later that evening, she learned law enforcement discovered 2 escaped fugitives in the back of the cave. She credited the witch with helping her avoid them. Wow. So the witch doesn't seem horrible. So John Bell Sr. must have just been
yeah, probably.
I don't know. It's kind of weird. 5 soldiers in 1977 apparently reported a incident with the Bell Witch. They were at a nearby Fort Campbell, which is near the Bell Witch Cave, and one of the soldiers was sitting on a rock and expressed skepticism of the legend when something invisible grabbed him around the chest. Staff writer of the Tennessean, David Gerard, in 1986 was given permission to actually sleep over in the cave, and while in the first cave room, they heard a noise from deeper in the cave. They estimated like 30 yards away. Subsequently, an unwavering groan repeated again with greater volume and accompanied by several loud thumps. When it began a third time, the men retreated to the gate entrance. They explored the wiring to the lights, looking for a reason for the noises. They went back to the first cave room, but heard a rumble near the entrance. Walking back to the entrance, they discovered the rumble was noise from a jet. Okay. As they reached the gate, a loud, high-pitched scream emanated from inside the cave. The journalists left and did not spend the night in the cave because they were scaredy cats. I don't know. I would not go in there.
I'm okay. If I'm in the area, I'll go visit the cave. You can visit the cave, actually, today.
This makes no sense. In 1987, H.C. Sanders, owner of a nearby gas station, reported 20 years earlier he ran out of gas at night. Oh, wait, not like his car, but the gas station maybe. Near the Red River across from the Bell Witch Cave. He began to walk towards town when a rabbit came out of the woods and began to follow him. Sanders walked faster, but the rabbit kept pace even as he broke out into a run. After a mile, Sanders sat down on a log to catch his breath. The rabbit hopped up on the other side of the log, looked at him, and said, "Hell of a race we had there, wasn't it?" He was like on Molly. That's wild. Anyway, so overall, the Bell Witch legend is pretty interesting because there are so many like newspaper accounts and reportings and sightings and whatever of the Bell Witch, and the family and the descendants of the Bell Witch and their like anecdotal stories of it. I feel like I do believe in it in some way. I agree with you that I don't think it's like a demon, but maybe just like a spirit, like a Native American spirit of some sort. Who knows?
Something that's going to be bothering the people. Something mischievous and trickstery. And that's why it really reminds me of like a Wendigo. Something very trickstery, Maybe it's not eating people. Maybe it's some sort of other Native American spirit that wants to bother people and play with people. Maybe if you guys have any ideas, write it down in the comments or hit us up.
Anyways, thank you guys again for listening to this week's episode of Cauldron Convos. If you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment down below what you want to see for next week's or the future. Love you guys so much. Happy spooky season. Happy October, babies. Bye.